Well, first off, I want to say I'm a Francis Howell graduate. That's why I'm here. I born and raised in Missouri. I moved into Scottsdale, Arizona quite a few years ago, so we're in this battle with you all too. But one of the best things I think is that I have the most incredible, epic job. I get to work with Gen Z Alpha, which is the younger generation, and their parents. And the interesting thing is that we have always gotten to a place of, I think what you had just mentioned, these kids, disregarding these kids. And what I want to ask you is, first of all, how many parents are in the room? Right? So it's funny how things changed when we got involved. It's interesting how things changed when moms decided to speak up and said no more. And that's exactly what I want to talk about right now, okay? Because you should applaud yourself, because we've been quiet and complacent for far too long. It cannot happen any longer. Let me ask you a very important question. I don't expect an answer, but I really want you to think about this. And first of all, I want to give a little disclaimer about myself. I am not politically correct. I think that we've gotten ourselves in this way by being politically correct. I am bold, but I am respectful, and I encourage you all to do the same. So as an immersive transformational life coach, I get to work with these kids on a daily basis. We've built a coaching studio in Arizona that is welcoming, but first and foremost, when you walk in my coaching studio, you will see iron sharpens iron, Proverbs 27:17. These kids have got to understand that today is their day, and who's leading them? We are. So let me ask you that question. Do you want your kids to be safe, or do you want your kids to be strong? Exactly. So what are we doing to create that? Because I can tell you right now, from working with children 10 to 14 and all the way up to 26 years old, we are raising weak-minded kids. They lack self-discipline. They lack personal responsibility. They lack the honesty that it takes to have a communication with generations. Parents don't know how to communicate with their kids. Kids don't know how to communicate with their parents. We're at a crisis level, and I hope that everyone understands that. When I get to work with kids, it's interesting because I truly believe that God's prepared me for this, and I will do this till I am no longer here. The youth and the young adult is 24.3% of our population, but they are 100% of our future. And we have to understand that it's going to take us as leaders to change this. All this information about schools, don't worry, the adults are in charge. Really? We blame our kids all the time. Do you know that their minds are up for sale every single day? How many hours a day do you think your kids are on social media? How many hours a day? Just blurt it out. How many hours do you think the average kid is on social media? 8 to 9 hours a day. And guess what? A lot of it's when you think they're sleeping. And here's the bad part about it is, you all have no idea what they're watching. You don't know what the accounts are, because do you know I was hired as a coach to go into a family to help the mom regulate their kids' phone time. Come on. Who pays the bill? Whose phone is it? You're not their friend. You are their parent. And I will throw myself under the bus as well. I'm a parent. I have 2 daughters. One's 17, just turned 18, and one's 22. Both very different kids. I had to become a different parent for each one, and I encourage us to audit ourselves on how we parent. But more importantly, it has to be the messaging. Do you know how to speak with your kids? If you don't spend at least a few minutes a day having a transparent, honest conversation, you're really, really doing your kids a disservice. Do you know how many kids come in my coaching studio or the events we have? I speak across the country at universities and high schools. Do you know how many kids come in here and say, you know what, I just don't think my parents hear me. They're listening only to respond. You're not really hearing them. Every single thing that you heard in this room, how many of your heads are spinning right now? Imagine what theirs are doing in the classroom. Everything they thought they knew. Their identity is in crisis. We really have to think about this. And when I say that they are 100% of our future, that's the truth. But we have to take a step back and we have to ask, how did we get here? And as a coach, I can tell you right now, we are a reactive society. We are not a proactive society. We are reactive in our own life. We are not proactive in our own life. We wait until the doctor says you're one cheeseburger away from a heart attack before we look at our weight and our health. We don't think, oh, what's my quality of life going to be? What's my nutrition? What's my wellness? What's my well-being? How is my financial fitness? What's it going to be like in 10 years? Are we preparing right now for who knows what's to come? I urge you to really think about this on being proactive, not reactive. Same thing with your emotions, with your children, with the world today. Discipline your emotions. You will be more effective if you can do that. You know, most of us try on a daily basis to possess a high level of humility, but we seem to lose it when we have to discipline our kids, right? And our kids don't know what they did. You know, I have a funny story. So when my kids were small, my husband was, I quit, so I was a personal trainer, owned a gym, took off, stopped to raise my girls for 16 years, and then I went back to work to be in service to these generations. And my husband, God bless him, he would come home from work and he was just very, distracted, I guess is the best way, which I think is where a lot of us are today. We've either been complacent for too long in our world or we're distracted. And he came in and the girls were, daddy, daddy. And my husband's, kind of like up here, right? And we need to get him down here. And I do not recommend doing this, but I took him by the hand and I walked him back outside. And I said, babe, when you're responsible for the energy that you want to bring in this house, please come back in because we want daddy and we want the husband. And I shut the door and left him on the other side. Like I said, I do not recommend doing this. Depends on what kind of a husband you're married to. And so he sat out there and I watched him out in the truck and my girls were like, where did daddy go? And I said, well, he's got a phone call. And so a few minutes later, he came in and he said, thank you for loving me enough to put that in my face that I wasn't showing up the way that I should as a father. Never underestimate the power of the father. Never underestimate that. So if we're going to fast forward that message, our young men are under attack today. And I can tell you right now they are struggling. I do guys-only workshops, 17, 18, 19-year-old guys. And we talk about everything. You have no idea what their mindsets are. Should I be a strong masculine? Should I be more permissive? Should I be more submissive or should I be more strong? Should I take my advice from this person or that person? The absence of the father as well. And in that case with my husband, until, he definitely got the message, which is good. Sometimes we're not there even though we're present. So, we have conversations in this room today and they will continue throughout the day. Things that are legalized, things that are politicized. My whole goal is to humanize this. I don't care what you do. I care about who you are while you're doing it. You're a parent first. If you chose to have children, it's not an easy job. It's definitely not for the weak. But more importantly, there are adults in positions of influence over your children, and you have no idea what they're learning. I mean, how many people today are willing to run for school board? That's a huge position of influence. I spoke at the Scottsdale Unified School District Board. And I told them that they are in privileged positions with our youth. And you better take it seriously because their mental health right now is at a crisis level. And you know, somebody said to me the other day when they heard I was coming in town, they said, oh, well, you coach like the Prozac generation. And trust me, I kind of went into mama bear mode. But you know what? I'm like, who's prescribing it? Who's not willing to sit down and have conversations with these kids? Because I can tell you right now, when I open up my space and we've got 30, 40, 60, 70 kids in there, it's on fire. There are kids, and if you take a look at this over here, these kids are my ambassadors. They're from California. They're from Missouri. We've got a special one in there in the middle with the red shirt, little Nikki Mills, Bob and Nikki's daughter. My daughter's in there with the shorts, and the other kids, they're from Arizona. They're all over the place. And I can tell you right now, they are done with what is going on. They are finished with this. When they came into my coaching studio, they actually said, wow, we can actually speak openly and honestly about we love our country. I'm like, please do. We actually can say, I am a strong heterosexual male, and I want to be in that relationship, and I want a foundational family, and I love God. You bet you can. But they can't say it in school. They can't say it in college. I have ASU students, U of A students, including Mizzou. I have them sending me the curriculum. They're learning the gender unicorn. I'm not kidding you. It is a graphic called the Gender Unicorn to teach kids how to understand their gender. One of my sassy ambassadors just said, well, why can't we just look in our pants? It seems logical to me, right? So that's when I say that I get this privileged position, these kids are bright and beautiful and healthy and strong and are wondering, what the hell are we doing? You have got to advocate for these kids, because I know I will. And I think everybody wants to. And I think everybody knows they need to. We're just stuck. We're complacent. You know, I had one of my events, and a parent asked me, you know, T, how did we get here today? And I said, when was the last school board meeting you went to? He said, I never have attended. I said, yeah. When was the last time you reviewed your kid's curriculum and you went to the school and said, can I get a copy of that, what you're teaching my child? Never happened. I'm guilty too. Well, you don't have that option anymore. That option is no longer available to you to be complacent. And you know, I'm not calling anyone out. I'm calling you to action in your own life. I'm calling you to action in your children's life and your grandchildren's life. You know, the biggest thing that's interesting about when you work with kids, you always hear, you know, I wrote a book on sustainability a while ago, and we talk about that, what that means. And to me, true sustainability is really who you are as a human and how you nurture and steward what you've been given. And I think one of the interesting things is, as parents, we have to understand we're so focused on making sure our world is really good for our kids. We also have to understand that our kids have to be good for our world. We have to raise better kids too. We have to raise kids that are willing to step up despite being called out, that are willing to put it on the line. I can tell you right now, this is a small example of some kids I'm blessed to work with. They will. They speak up. They give presentations. They're not willing to because they understand that they're at a crisis level themselves. But these are young kids. They don't have the knowledge that we have, but they have the heart. They may have a lot more guts than we have because we've allowed the world to tell us, sit down, be quiet, and don't say anything and don't rock the boat. I had a mom that hired me to work with her son because she said, you know, he doesn't know a few things. You know, there's a little bit of stuff I'm kind of worried about. And I said, what do you mean? She goes, well, you know, he kind of rocks the boat, and I just don't want him to rock the boat. I go, you're right. Tip it over. Tip it over. And I'm not going to be that coach that's going to help him be quiet. Lead with bold, but be responsible. Have grit and have resiliency. That's what it's going to take. And that's what our kids don't have today. They don't understand what it's like to go through adversity. They've had a cush life. But whose fault is that? Are you saving your child and keeping them safe? Are you teaching them to be strong? Are you teaching them to be respectful but bold? Are you teaching them how to take care of themselves unapologetically but be responsible for their space in this world? It's a big job, I get it, and it takes a village, as we all know, especially as moms. But I think we're at a place, and I always try to look at not just what I'm against, but what I'm for. That's an energy. That's where my energy is going, what I'm for. I'm for strong, disciplined kids. I'm for having difficult conversations that might make you uncomfortable. I'm okay with that. I'm okay with making you think. I'm okay with pissing you off a little bit. Because if we don't, we're not willing to have a conversation that's going to move the needle. And today, I think, is a day here, and I'm so honored and blessed to be here with you all, because being a Missouri farm girl, moved to Arizona, and coming back to being able to be in service, even to your generation, and not living here, my heart's here. My parents are still here. I have a lot of friends and family here. We're all one. And we are definitely all in the same boat. We just need to make sure that we're all sailors. And how are we going to navigate it? So I encourage everyone today. My website's on there. My Instagram is on there. If you have any questions about kids or anything about our events that we do, masterminds that we do, understand one thing. Our focus is values, morals, integrity, personal responsibility, and boldness. Because that's what Gen Z is about. And I will be in service with them for as long as I'm alive and as long as people like you allow me to coach and speak your children. Thank you so much. I'm here for any questions later on today. I appreciate this time very much. Thank you.